What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is decentralized digital currency that is created when computers solve a complex mathematical problem. All computers that mine Bitcoin are part of what is called a blockchain. The protocol of Bitcoin says that a Bitcoin will be mined over a certain period of time. As time goes on, there will be less and less available to be mined. For this reason, some call it a digital gold. But some difference between that and gold is, for example, it cannot be controlled by a nation-state since no country owns it like gold. Gold as money goes back to the Greeks, but it being seen as sum of value goes back the beginning of recorded history. The dollar was backed by gold up into the early 70s. In late 90s the internet started to become mainstream. But one thing that was lacking was a currency for the internet. A money for the digital age. Some people tried by nothing caught on. It wasn't until 2009 that Bitcoin was created. When it comes to that time, what comes to mind? The Great Financial Crisis. During this time we saw billions of bailouts and money printing by all major countries of the world. Now that these currency were not backed by gold, there was no stopping this. This is when the creator of Bitcoin came up with the idea of sovereign currency. A currency with no nation, no state and no bank. When you have money outside the system, you are immune to what the governments are doing. Bitcoin is similar to taking your money out of the bank and hiding it under a mattress. Cash is for people who want to remain anonymous. Much like cash, this anonymous feature is often used by illegal activities. This is why it largely used on the deep web and or sites like the Silk Road. When Bitcoin first started to get media attention, this idea of Bitcoin being used for illegal activities was how Bitcoin was portrayed as. There was depictions on TV shows of it being used by hackers and drug dealers. This stereotype is what people still have of Bitcoin. The fact is there is far more illegal activities using cash. It was things like the Silk Road that started giving Bitcoin attention in the media. As Bitcoin began to slowly increase in adoption, so did the price increase. One of the biggest hurdles for Bitcoin was a safe and secure place to buy it. Originally the only place you could buy it was a site that had been formerly used for Magic the Gather cards. The site was called Mtgox. It wasn't until Coinbase that there was a true Bitcoin exchange. Coinbase began the start of becoming mainstream. It went from a currency of the deep web to a more of digital gold for the 21st century. Others see it as a new investment. Some difference with Bitcoin and traditional assets is the fact that with Bitcoin it's not something owned by the rich. Another would be the fact that you don't need to be as educated on the asset as would be needed for investing in real estate or stocks. But yes, there is education needed to invest in Bitcoin. This video will help you know the basics of Bitcoin. Now here is some basics. There will only be 21 million Bitcoin created. Much like gold, there will be a finite supply. But this figure of true supply is not known since much of the Bitcoins have been lost. If someone wants to own Bitcoin, there are a few ways. One of which is a digital wallet. Another is to store them on exchanges like Coinbase or Uphold.com. Each of these methods have their own risk. Another difference how it can be divided into 1/1,000,000th. Where gold can only be broken down to grams. Since as central banks own most of the world gold supply, then can control its price. This just a few reasons for why Bitcoin was created. Now you may ask, who created it? No one really knows. But like the currency, they will remain anonymous. Bitcoin has no borders, no nation's currency. It's the money of the sovereign man.